Emily had lived in her apartment for over a year. It was a small, quiet one-bedroom on the third floor of an older building, the kind of place where the walls were thin and the nights were always silent. But lately, something had changed. It started so subtly she almost ignored it. Just a faint, rhythmic sound like breathing. Slow, constant, coming from behind the wall next to her bed. She paused the music she was playing, held her breath, and listened. There it was again. A soft thud, 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 thud. Too steady to be pipes. Too soft to be construction. Almost like someone was knocking. From the inside. She shook it off. Told herself it was just an old building, maybe noisy neighbors through the wall. But over the next few nights, the sound didn't stop. It became routine. Always between 2:00 and 2:30 a.m. Always coming from the same spot, the wall behind her headboard. Then came the second sign. Her bedroom mirror fogged over in the morning, as if someone had breathed on it from inches away. But the heater hadn't been on. The window had been locked. And she lived alone. Finally, she called the landlord. Just to be sure. His voice was calm until she mentioned which wall the sound was coming from. There was a pause. Then, he said quietly, "That section of the building is sealed off. There's no room behind that wall." She laughed nervously. "So what's back there?" Another pause. Longer this time. "It used to be storage. Years ago. But something happened. We bricked it shut. No one's touched it in decades." Her blood ran cold. That night, she couldn't sleep. She stared at the wall for hours. Until at exactly 2:17 a.m., the sound came again. But this time, it wasn't a knock. It was a whisper, right against the wall. And it said, "Why did you tell him?" From that night onward, everything began to change. Slowly at first, then all at once. The noises that once blended into the background were now impossible to ignore. Soft creaks that moved across the floorboards as if someone was pacing in the dark, just inches from her bed. She'd wake up in the middle of the night to strange little details that never used to be there. Picture frames, slightly tilted, the same ones she always kept perfectly straight. Drawers half open, though she was certain she closed them before sleeping. And the mirror, always fogged in the same spot. A perfect oval, like a mouth, had exhaled directly onto the glass from the inside. But the most terrifying thing happened at exactly 3:13 a.m. every single night. Without fail, a cold, unnatural breeze would fill the room. Not like the draft of wind from a window left ajar. This breeze had weight, presence. It carried with it the kind of cold that felt intentional, like something alive was breathing down her neck. The windows were shut, the door locked, and yet the air would turn freezing cold only for a few moments. And in those moments, the entire room would go silent. No cars outside, no ticking from the clock. Even her breath sounded muffled, like she had been sealed inside something. Then one night, when the clock hit 3:13 again, she decided to stay awake. The breeze came, but this time, the fog on the mirror didn't appear in silence. It appeared with a sentence, written slowly, backwards as if from the other side of the glass. "I know you're awake." One night, Emily decided to place her phone against the wall and record overnight. In the morning, she checked the footage. Around 3:14 a.m., the frame showed something move, a dark figure, slow and silent, gliding in front of the camera. Emily hadn't moved. No one had entered. Maintenance workers came the next day to inspect the wall. What they found stunned them. Behind the drywall was a tiny crawl space, just large enough for a person to hide in. Inside were scattered personal items, a torn blanket, an old comb, and a small, yellowed note. It read, "I liked watching you sleep. Jake lived on the outskirts of a quiet town, the kind of place where nothing ever really happened. The roads were empty after 9 p.m. Streetlights flickered more than they glowed. And the nights? The nights were so still, it felt like the whole world just stopped breathing. Ordering food late had become a comforting routine for Jake. It gave him a sense of normalcy, something familiar in the middle of all that suffocating quiet. That night was no different. Around 11:47 p.m., he opened his usual food delivery app and placed an order with the same restaurant, same driver, same everything. 20 minutes later, he got the notification, "Your food has arrived." He got up from the couch, casually walked to the front door. But when he opened it, no one was there. No bag. No driver. Not even tire tracks on the damp gravel road leading up to his porch. Just the dense silence of the night staring back at him. Confused, he refreshed the app. It still said delivered. Then he noticed something odd. The small motion detector light by the door hadn't turned on. It always triggered when someone approached. He checked the footage on his smart doorbell camera. And that's when his stomach dropped. The video showed a figure walking up the steps, hooded, head tilted slightly, holding something in its hands. But the figure never rang the bell. Never knocked. Just stood there, staring at the camera, for exactly 6 minutes and 13 seconds. Not moving. Not blinking. Then the screen glitched for a split second, and the figure vanished. He paused the footage, zoomed in, and that's when he saw it taped to the wall next to his door. Barely visible behind the figure's silhouette was a note. "Thanks for letting me in." Jake stumbled backward, heart pounding. He turned to check the back door, which he never used. It was wide open, but there was nothing there. No delivery bag. No driver in sight. Just a white envelope, unmarked, resting quietly on the welcome mat. Inside, a single card with one word written in messy red ink. Hungry? He thought maybe it was a prank. Threw it away. But it didn't stop. Over the next few days, he tried different apps. Different restaurants. Each time, the food would be marked as delivered. And each time, only the same envelope appeared. Same word. Hungry? One night, uneasy, Jake checked the porch camera footage. For most of the night, the porch was empty. Until 2:37 a.m., a single frame showed a pale figure crouched low, unnaturally low, directly in front of the camera, grinning widely at the lens, eyes wide, unblinking. He never saw that face again. But he stopped ordering food after that. The voice behind the door. Sarah was used to being alone. After all, she'd been living by herself for nearly 2 years. She liked the quiet, the independence until one Thursday night changed everything. It was almost midnight when she heard a soft knock at her back door. She wasn't expecting anyone. She cautiously approached and looked through the peephole. No one was there. She turned away, uneasy. That's when she heard it. A voice soft, familiar. "Please, I need help. Just open the door." Her heart dropped. The voice sounded strange, almost robotic. But more than that, it sounded exactly like her own voice. Frozen, she stepped back slowly. The voice continued. "It's me. You can trust me. I'm you." Terrified, she grabbed her phone and called a friend. As she turned back to the door, she saw the handle slowly move, as if someone on the other side was gently testing it. She never opened the door, but the next morning, she found something that made her blood run cold. Her bedroom window, which had been locked, was now open, just a crack. And written across her mirror in lipstick were 5 chilling words. "You should have let me in. They say your home is the one place you're safe. But sometimes, it's where the horror waits patiently in the shadows." So if you're home alone tonight, ask yourself, Are the sounds you hear really in your head? Or has something already let itself in? Don't watch this alone. Ever again.